All right, Shalom. Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises and honor and glory to Yahawadah, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Rakal, Kodash. I want to say double honor to the apostles and the bishop elders, a great millstone for teaching his word, the truth and sincerity, and for ruling well. And salutations to my fellow Akim across the four corners of the globe, preaching and prophesying in the name of Yahawadah, Bahashem, Yahawashi. Yeah, I'm the brother Gabar Yahawadah from GMS Hawaii, coming to you with another live lesson. And today's live lesson is entitled Story Time with Gabar. Women in the Army, and this video was inspired by two videos in particular. One being Apostle Tahar, his video on I forget what the video was particularly about, but he was crackhead. His video, he was speaking about myself. He had did a response video to a video that I had did in regards to the Queen of England, I think it was, and he was telling about his experience with myself, and hearing my stories, man. And he had mentioned, he's like, hey, that brother tells some funny stories, and he should make a video, he should make a channel with him just talking about his stories. And the second video was Elder Yahawadah. He did a video last night about women in the Army and about, some of the tragic things that happen to women in the Army, particularly so-called black women and Latino women and white women, or women of all backgrounds, man. And, in my particular experience in the military, I got a lot of stories, man. So I'm gonna switch the camera around so while I'm driving. Well, I'll just keep it where I'm at. I'm driving, so I don't have no scriptures on me right now to speak of, to read out of the scriptures. But there is a scripture about a man with experience. Brothers can find that. It's in the Apocrypha. I think it's in Ecclesiasticus. I might be wrong, but I think it is. But it speaks about a man and his experience. A man well traveled, has much experience, And I'm very well traveled, because I spent over 15 years in the military. Obviously retired from the military. I've deployed 4 times, and I was a part of the initial invasion. So today's story is going to be on that, on the initial invasion of Iraq involving women. You know what I'm saying? So women in the military. So in 2002, I deployed to Iraq from Fort Hood. And it was during the operation, what was it, Iraqi Freedom? That's what it was called, and then it changed to Operation Enduring Freedom. And so we basically was a part of the initial invasion of Iraq, taking it over. And you just seen, at the time I was in the world, I didn't understand really what I was involved in. I didn't really understand the significance of what it was, you know what I'm saying? I was a kid from Philadelphia. I think I was like 22, 21 years old, something like that. And that's over 20 years ago, bro. You know what I'm saying? And so I deployed to Iraq and shit. And we first deployed to Kuwait. So we was a part of the initial drive into Iraq. They got videos on YouTube of that shit. 2 weeks to Iraq. It took us 2 weeks to get to Iraq, man. We were driving like 30 miles an hour. You know what I'm saying? I've seen a lot of death going up in there and shit. But one thing I will tell you, that these women being in the military, especially in a war environment, is not befitting of a woman. It's not becoming of a woman, man, because they don't got it to handle that kind of pressure. You see like a chick bug out and she's emotionally distraught, or she's emotionally fucked up in her mind. How much more if she got to witness people dying next to her, friends that she was cool with, that she's seeing in 1 minute, and then the next minute the motherfucker blown into pieces, man, and they lose their fucking shit. So there's one particular story I got. I think we were already driving into Iraq. We were in the middle of the desert, and it was a sandstorm happened. A sandstorm came, and it was the first sandstorm I had ever seen in my life. Like, I'd never seen a sandstorm before. And it was already cloudy, but once the sandstorm came, you can see is basically wherever you was at. And we were particularly inside our trucks. It's called a LMTV, a light LMTV, a light maintenance tactical vehicle, and it only could fit 3 people in the front, and in the back is the cargo. And so it was myself, it was this white female, her name was Towson. I think her name was Towson, and then there was another NCO. He was on the passenger side. So 3 people could fit in the middle. So she was in the middle seat. We call that riding bitch. And so, long story short, we witnessed this shit come through fast. It came through fast, but it looked slow. And as it came through and enveloped us in the vehicle, it started raining hell inside of a fucking sandstorm. Hell, like big ass golf balls, baseball size hell just started dropping. And in the vehicle, as the sandstorm was moving over the vehicle, it was shaking the vehicle and shit, right? So this bitch is like, I saw this bitch rocking back and forth like this and shit, right? And she had her hands together like this. She's like, and then she was panicking because she couldn't remember the Lord's Prayer. She's like, I don't know what the Lord's Prayer is. And at the time, I wasn't in the truth. I didn't know what the Lord's Prayer was. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know anything. I didn't know. So instead of me being scared, I couldn't help but laugh at this bitch. And she was like this, I can't remember the Lord's Prayer. And she kept trying to say the shit. Not the shit. She kept trying to say the Lord's Prayer and couldn't get it out. She couldn't say it because she thought she was going to fucking die. Mind you, at least like a day or two before this shit, she was all geeked up to go to war. She was all geeked up. We had all our gear and shit on. And she was like, she just knew she was going to be G.I. Jane. We in the Army, but this bitch got she had a U.S. Marine tattoo on her arm and never been in Marines. She was only in the Army. You know what I mean? And I remember she had this big ass rack. Her titties are huge. And she had a slim waist, but she used to try to use that to try to, get some influence over men. And it kind of worked. You know what I mean? But when we was in that vehicle and she thought she was going to fucking die, all that shit went out the fucking window. All that tough G.I. Jane talk, all that, she was proud. She's a proud devil, bro. Straight slut. She's a proud fucking devil. And she was just rocking back and forth, crying. Bitch face turned red and shit. And all I could do was laugh at the bitch. I was like, man, you know what I'm saying? Because I understood what a sandstorm is, you know what I mean? Although I might not have ever been in one, I knew it would pass and shit through the spirit. So it ended up passing and shit, right? I'm sorry. Because you had to be there. And I was telling a real caveat. Before a lot of times, I don't like to go into detail about no bullshit I've been in the world because, like Paul, I count it all dung. It ain't really important. You know what I'm saying? The Lord just allowed me to go through certain shit to get me to this point, which is to be in His truth and to do this work. So a lot of times, I don't neglect, but I just shy away from talking about the military unless I get around brothers, you know what I'm saying, or the apostles if they want to hear it, you know what I mean. And the apostle Sahara, he kind of likes to hear it. He likes to hear my stories, man, because I'm real animated. But you know what I'm saying. And then another portion of me feel like nobody gonna believe it, like people ain't gonna believe it. But you got all these women that run around here talking all this feminine shit, how a woman can do what a man can do, how women are equal to men, and that's all fucking bullshit. It's all bullshit, because when you in war, them bitches ain't equal, bro. Them bitches ain't equal. First of all, they can't man up. And I was telling one of the brothers last night, I was like, look, man, war make bitches 2 things, bro. Scared and horny. Scared and horny. And neither one of those things help you when you in a battle environment. When you in a battle environment, you can't be scared. And if you are scared, you gotta push that shit to the side. You know what I'm saying? And being horny, listen, bro, I ain't fucking on no dude. So ain't no way being horny is going to help you in war. But it's just like they say that this is thing. If a woman watches a scary movie, you watch a scary movie with your woman, and she that she be jumping all shit, all scared. That's like it's also a signal that go off in her mind that get her horny. Especially if you there to protect her and shit, and hold her and shit. She gets hot and horny, man. So normally at the fucking scary movie, your woman is ready to fuck, man. Well, how much more a bitch that's in a wartime environment, man? Because they're not prepared for this shit. A lot of these women that look like something in the military, they make it in the military just because they look like something. They might got a pretty face, nice well-shaped body, shit. And when you downrange, man, a ugly bitch is a 10. You know what I'm saying? A 3 is a dime when you down, if you in a war environment. You know what I'm saying? So, those things don't help a woman, man. You know what I mean? And all that trying to be a superhero shit, that shit is some bullshit. G.I. Jane do not exist. I don't give a fuck how much buzz cuts you bitches get, how much hair you chop off your head, how many push-ups you can fucking do. You are not fit for a wartime environment. And I've seen it in my own eyes. This bitch was rocking back and forth, shaking and crying and shit. You know what I mean? Because she was scared. How can a woman like that turn on fight or flight and bust her gun? She can't. My second story, brothers, you can type this up, Jessica Lynch. So Jessica Lynch was this Edomite female. She's about 18, 17 or something like that. She was young. And she was part of this maintenance, I think it was the 571st or something like that, maintenance company. Anyway, her company was in front of my company while we were driving into Iraq. And as we drove into Iraq, it was at nighttime, we driving and shit, and you can't really see nothing. You can't really use your headlights. You got to use your headlights for only in emergency cases. It has to be emergency cases only. So we got these things called, we call them night lights or whatever. On each vehicle, there's a switch to turn your lights from regular lights to night lights. And the only way you can see these lights is basically through night vision goggles. So we all had, all the drivers, we had night vision goggles on and shit, so we can see what's in front of us. Because without that shit, you can't see shit, bro. It's fucking damn near impossible. And you can get in an accident. And mind you, we driving like 15 miles to 30 miles an hour max on a hostile highway, a structured highway, like the highway that I'm driving on right now. But picture this. I'm gonna switch it around to landscape. Yeah, picture you driving on a highway like this with nobody on it except military vehicles. On each side, left and right, you can get attacked. You know, you got enemy combatants, what they call insurgents, you know, soldiers, Iraqi soldiers, and they can just swarm down on you, swoop down on you, and shoot you from either side. And the only thing that you got protecting you is a plastic door or a metal door. It all depends on what kind of vehicle you're driving. And that's it, because back then, we didn't have no armored vehicles. Back then, our vehicles weren't up, we call them up armor, meaning they weren't fitted with armor on the vehicles. It was basically, Esau set us up for failure, bro, from the jump. This nigga set us in there with vehicles where the doors were either made of plastic. The only ones that had metal on their doors was the MP vehicles. Those are the ones that were suited for, you know, bulletproof. And it wasn't that high bulletproof capacity back then. You know, you can look that up on YouTube. U.S. soldier was basically cussing Donald Rumsfeld out, or inquiring about Donald Rumsfeld, which used to be the Secretary of State, no, the Secretary of Defense, about why we weren't fitted with armored vehicles, because we basically our shit was getting blown up. So back to Jessica Lynch. Jessica Lynch unit was in front of my unit while we were driving. So it was so many units driving towards Iraq, and we were all, you know, separated via our captains and commanders and what we call convoy commanders. All right, and in the front, in the very front, and in the very back, you had each of us, all units got gun trucks, but you had the main gun trucks via the tanks and the 11 Bravos, which are infantry vehicles in front, right? So it's nighttime, and we driving and shit. We driving and shit. We headed to Iraq. We in Iraq. Somehow, some way, her unit took a left. They took that left turn. They took a left turn, and we were wondering, like, well, where they going? Why they driving left? Why is this unit moving left? And my commander was like, fuck that. We staying forward. He was Edomite. He was like, fuck that shit. We staying forward. We staying with the body. Her vehicle. As soon as her unit took that left, and Jessica Lynch was in a Humvee, which that wasn't armored. As soon as they hit that left, they got attacked. All you could see was it just went to shit. It went to complete. It was quiet, and then it got loud, and they were being attacked. Her people were being attacked. They stopped the convoy. Whoever was in the front had to keep going. We kept going. Whoever's in the back of us, they had to stop because her people were being attacked. A great deal of her military personnel were kidnapped. The only black female to ever be a POW, Shoshana Johnson, she was a part of that company. And Shoshana Johnson, she got shot in both her ankles and she was kidnapped and shit. They had her, and they had a whole bunch of Edomites and shit. And then this bitch was ugly too. If you see Shoshana Johnson, she was not a fucking looker, you know. But her and Jessica Lynch got POW at the same time. And Jessica Lynch was an Edomite, so she got more coverage. They turned this bitch into a superhero. They say that she killed a whole bunch of Iraqis. They say that she was busting a gun, that she wouldn't go down without a fight, and none of that shit happened. And you can look up Jessica Lynch on. They had a made-for-TV movie for the bitch. They redecorated her home for her because she was all fucked up. And they took a lot more care of her than they did Shoshana Johnson. Show you that we the Israelites and we under the curses. And so Jessica Lynch's vehicle, I don't know what happened, but it overturned. It got overturned and shit. She was a driver, and a female that was next to her was her friend. She was the only so-called Gadite, a so-called Indian woman. She was a Gadite to die in combat, and at that particular time. And she didn't get a good home going either, you know. And she died. She died in the army. She died in the war. And Jessica Lynch, they said that this bitch did all these miraculous and superheroic things, but come to find out, she was pinned in a vehicle. She couldn't get out. That's the first thing. Her weapon was jammed full of dust, full of sand. She couldn't bust her gun. It was full of sand. She ain't do none of that shit that they said she did. And that was the first time in my life that I was able to see United States propaganda at its best. Because they turned the propaganda machine on for this bitch to try to drum up patriotic support for the military. And they claim that she got sexually assaulted and all this other shit. But what really happened was, I don't know whether it was Iraqi soldiers or civilians. They found her body in that truck and they took her to the hospital. They dropped that bitch off in the hospital. They did not want to take her because she wasn't going to be valuable. So they took her to the hospital. They did whatever they did to her in the hospital. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. But what they did with the rest of her unit, they videotaped all her fucking unit that didn't make it, because the vast majority of her unit died. And they had these motherfuckers on video. I seen it with my own two eyes. They had this shit on video, all these dead bodies in a room. I don't know if it was real, I don't know if it was staged, but it looked pretty fucking real. And it was all dead bodies. And they had them all on the fucking video, in this room. And they were videotaping that shit. And they was all sprawled out on the floor and shit. You know what I mean? And all that superhero shit, these women, they couldn't fight. I'm not saying that women don't bust their guns. I'm not saying women weren't a part of combat experience. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that all that shit about that feminine shit, that women are equal to men shit, is bullshit. Because when you in a war environment, they're not ready to fight. They scared more than anything. More than anything. And a lot of these bitches, they want them administrative jobs where they're not really out there on the front lines fighting and shit like that. Because they want to be protected. And like I said, if you look like something in the military, you can get those things. You can fuck your way up the chain of command. You could sashay your little ass across the sergeant major's eyes, and he fuck around, make you his personal secretary, and you go from an E4 to an E6 in a matter of 9 months, and nobody asks any questions. That shit happens, you know, because these women bring a lot of confusion. So Jessica Lynch, they try to paint her as a superhero, and kind of find out the bitch wasn't none of that shit. And when it blew up in America's face, they tried to use their PR firms to make it better. But, that's a blot on Esau. And they do that with every war. You can type in some dude named Audie Murphy. This nigga, they made a movie about him in World War II. According to the documents, he outlived everybody in his unit. And he went from a private to a lieutenant, a first lieutenant. He was a private, sergeant, staff sergeant, sergeant first class. Fucking passed the E8 and went to a fucking first lieutenant, bro. And they got a video with this nigga standing on, not a video, but they got a movie called From Hell and Back with Audie Murphy. And one of the scenes, he's standing on top of a fucking tank with his fucking Medal of Honor, which you don't even have that kind of shit on when you out there in the war. You're not walking around with no fucking no medals on and shit like that. You're gonna be a fucking target. You know what I'm saying? But they got this nigga on top of the John shooting and shit. He's shooting all these motherfucking Germans, killing all these Germans and shit. And he was like a #1 test case for PTSD, because he had PTSD really bad. And I think he might have died of alcoholism. You know what I'm saying? Well, I know he had a big problem with alcoholism, because back then they wasn't diagnosing people with PTSD back then. That wasn't a thing. You know, mental health wasn't a thing during World War II. You know, he got fucked up, but they got a military board, I think it's a E5 board, or no, it's a Sergeant First Class board called it's a soldier board called the Audie Murphy board. I think it might be. I don't fucking remember. It's so long ago. But they got a board named after this nigga, and they tried to do the same thing they did with him with Jessica Lynch, but this time it didn't work, because we lived during the time of the internet. Information was flowing way more freely back during 2003, 2004. You know, so yeah, man, it just showed you that she was weak. And you can look her up on YouTube, man. They got a lot of documentaries on this bitch and everything, man. How they lied about this bitch. And I met the bitch boyfriend. Her boyfriend was some Mexican dude. Jessica Lynch was not married, but she had a boyfriend. He was like an E5. And so we had I know I'm all over the place with my stories and shit, but a lot fucking happened, bro. I was there, man. We was at Baghdad International Stadium, which is called Bayap in the Army and shit. And so when that shit got taken over, and it was fucking terrible. It was fucking. It was an EPW camp, an enemy prisoner of war camp, all of that shit. I remember walking into a building, it was full of fucking masks, AK-47s, AK-47 ammo, 726, 726 rounds and shit. Rounds this fucking big, yo. You know, because that's what they was rocking with. We had M16s. And that shit, them M16s are the worst weapon to fight with in the military. But hey, guess who? They give you that? They give you that shit in the Army. They don't give a fuck about you in the Army. They give you the cheapest equipment known to man. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so her boyfriend, my job in the military at that particular time was laundry and textile specialist. It might sound funny, people might crack jokes, but we were set up to, our job was to set up laundry facilities and shower facilities for combat companies and any company that's in a field environment that didn't have that shit. So we had that shit, and then that's what my job was. And so we set up shop at the Baghdad International Airport first, Bayap, and her boyfriend came through, and I remember him telling us like, yeah, man, that's my girlfriend, Jessica Lynch. She got kidnapped by the Iraqis. I was like, for real? He's like, yeah, man. I don't know if they still together, but you could look at her video. You can look on a YouTube. She was in a parade and he was in a vehicle with her. She was in a red, like a red convertible, and they was sitting on the back of that bitch, and he was waving, and he was I remember him telling me while I was out there, while she was still kidnapped and shit, what happened. He told me what happened, and I was like, oh shit, we was behind them. You know what I'm saying? He was like, yeah, that was my woman, or whatever and shit. Shit, and the shit was crazy, man. Shit was mad crazy. And all that shit about her killing people and shooting people was a fucking lie. It was fabricated, man. She fucking tanked, bro. She fucking tanked. She was too beat up and bruised to even do anything, let alone shoot. You know what I'm saying? And they try to say she got raped. And, they try to make these Iraqi soldiers pure beasts, man. Which I'm not saying they weren't, but the real beasts were the American soldiers, man. The American soldiers were the real pieces of shit out there, man. Especially them Edomites, man. Them Edomite 11 Bravos, man. They was raping bitches. They was shooting, killing people. They were just giving into their lust out there, man. Because it was like Wild Wild West the first year and a half, 2 years of the Iraq war and shit. You know what I'm saying? So, women don't, in my opinion, women should never be in the military. Ever. But, there's women in all militaries now. I'm not sure about Russian military, but I know for a fact the IDF, I think the Germany got bitches in there. America definitely got women in the military and shit. And it's a bunch of confusion, man. And like, you women, you join the military for benefits, man. You join the military for them benefits, man. The educational benefits, the financial benefits, the health benefits, but you ain't really ready for war. You're not in a mindset like, look, I could go to war. And these bitches that get on this social media crying to the people, talking about they're gonna send them to war and they don't wanna go, that's not what they signed up for. Once you sign your name to a military contract, the only 3 ways you can get out the military. You can get put out, you can get put to death, or you can ETS, which is end of time and service. That's the only way you getting out the military. Outside of that, you in that bitch. And all that I ain't signed up to go to war shit, hey, Esau don't give a fuck. When you sign that contract, you sign up to go to war. I myself did that shit and I didn't realize it. I signed up right after 9/11. Well, right before 9/11, August 26, 2000, I signed up to go active duty to the military. And I was there, I was in the Army, 2001, August 22nd, 2001. And my ass was in Fort Hood, Texas, October 9th. October 12th, 2001, right after September 11th, man. And my crazy ass went to fucking war, man. And I remember marching to the fucking gymnasium where we were staged at to get on them buses to get to fly out, bro. And I was scared at first, but it was nothing I could do. I just said, fuck it. And I just kept moving. But how much more of these women, man? How much more of these women, bro? These women ain't got it, bro. So, you know, that's just one of my stories. You know, I ain't see too many, I'm about to stop in a second to read the comments and shit. And not in shit, sloppy. I'm just speaking and stuff. But definitely, man, you know, I've been there, man. I was there. I was fucking there, bro. And the shit was crazy. And then my last story, this one chick, she was in my unit, and we were parked next to a Patriot missile battery. I didn't know this either. But all I heard was a big ass boom. It was the loudest boom I had ever heard in my life. And I thought Saddam Hussein found us. I thought he found us. And like, we had gas suits. They gave us these, I think they're called J-list suits. J-list suits. These suits with a hood on it that's made with charcoal inside to protect you from, you know, a possible chemical attack. And I remember this chick, I forget her name. It began with an H at the time. But she couldn't get her suit on and shit, and she was panicking, bro. She was like, "Help me! Somebody help me! I can't get my chemical boots on. I can't get my boots on." And you know, it's every man for themselves when some shit go down like that. You put your own shit on. Fuck that bitch. And she was crying, bro. This bitch was crying. She was like, help me, somebody! I can't put my boots on. I can't put my boots on. And she thought she was gonna fucking die from a chemical attack. You know. So again, man, you women ain't got it, bro. I don't care what they say. A lot of you women are nothing but targets out there. You a hindrance out there. You a motherfucking, you bring confusion out there, all right? You're a liability out there, you know? Straight up, man. You women get fucked down range all the time. You be married, you commit adultery down there and shit. You bring confusion down there and shit. You gotta have special amenities and shit down there. Listen, man, when you at war, man, it's every man for their fucking self out there, man. It's kill or be killed. And you women don't got that mentality as a whole to do that kind of stuff, man. And I've been there, man. I was there. I seen it, man. So, Lord willing, I see you brothers on the next installment of Story Time with Gabar. You know what I'm saying? May how about you on shot? Bless you, brothers. And you select off. Slack. Let me hit this comment board real quick. See what the comment board said. See. To Wob Show, keep the series going. Slack. You sure you're right? No. The GMS, North Carolina, 1 Timothy 5:14. I will therefore that the young women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. And that's what a woman's supposed to do. She ain't supposed to be at war. A woman ain't supposed to be fighting in no one fucking conflict of no kind, man. She's supposed to be at home, taking care of them kids, taking care of that house, man. And when war come, a lot of you feminist women, you gonna wish that you were in a female capacity, meaning that you were at home, taking care of them kids, guiding the house. You ain't gonna want to go down range when it's time to go to war. But a lot of you women gonna get drafted. A lot of you proud women, you will get drafted to the military. Okay? Because they're going to need the bodies. All right? They're going to need the bodies. They're going to need the bodies. I'm trying to read. What's going on, man? See if any scriptures. Not yet. Yeah, so again, man, I got a whole bunch of stories. You know, the water, Yahawadah from my experience in that. And it might not have been as funny as, you know, most of my stories and stuff, but hey, this is my experience, man. I was there, I saw things, you know, that I thought I'd never see. You know, and I don't really talk too much about it because I was fucked up behind that shit. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, but the Lord, Yahawadah brought me in this truth, brought me into this faith. So, hey, man, the Wadi Yahawadah, it was just my experience that I had to go through to get to this point that we at today. Lord willing, I endure to the end. Lord willing, you endure to the end. Again, so I hope you were edified. With that, I would say shalom, on to the next.